Welcome to the Smarter Money Life podcast hosted by Andy Mattingly. Frequent guest on local TV news, regular segment on Indy Now TV, and a leader here at Forum Credit Union. Forum's mission is to help members lead their financial dreams, and in today's podcast, we're going to cover a topic that will help you improve your financial life. Do you work for a company that offers benefits? Are you sure you're taking advantage of all of the benefits that can be beneficial to you? Hi, this is Andy Mattingly, and I'm back today to talk to you about company benefits, especially all the benefits that might be available to you. Because, your physical wellness plays a big part in your financial wellness, and even how you choose benefits can make a big decision or a big determination about your financial wellness. Now, I don't know all the things about benefits, but fortunately here at Forum, we have the guru of benefits, Ann Wiseman, our VP of HR. And, our employees are great at taking advantage of all those benefits because Ann is great at explaining all the choices that you have in benefits. So I'm very excited to have you here today, Ann, so we can talk about this very important topic. So I'm going to jump right in with, let's talk about health plans. There's so many options out there, and a lot of people don't really understand that. So what are considerations that you give to people about how they should choose the type of health plan for themselves?
Companies offer many different options in their healthcare benefits because they know that not everyone's needs are the same. With that in mind, you do need to evaluate your options to make the choice that is best for you and how you use your benefits. A few things to consider. A, are you just looking at yourself for benefits, or are you covering yourself plus any dependents? That can make a difference in what you choose and how you choose it. You also want to look at B, your deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums. What are your needs? How do you use the benefits? C, does your employer offer any additional benefits, maybe an on-site clinic or a near-site clinic that offers well care? This can make a difference in what your out-of-pocket and deductible expenses might be, especially if you have children with a number of wellness or minor injuries, illnesses throughout the year. That can be a huge cost savings for you if your employer offers that. The other thing you want to look at, obviously, is cost. What does it cost just to have the benefit on a biweekly basis? Generally, your higher deductible plans will cost you less on a per paycheck basis. Not always, but generally. So you want to look at, what am I spending just to have the coverage, and does that make sense for me on how we use the benefits? If I don't have a lot of expenses, it might make sense to pay less on a biweekly or per paycheck basis and have a higher deductible health plan. If I have a lot of expenses for a chronic condition, it might make sense for me to spend a little more per paycheck to have that lower deductible and out-of-pocket expense. You should evaluate that. Generally, if you're pretty healthy and you're just covering yourself, a good consideration would be to look at that per paycheck expense and decide, well, should I spend that on the chance that I have a health issue, or should I potentially put that money maybe into a health savings account for future expenses, into retirement savings, or possibly into an emergency savings account? If the difference is, say, $40 per paycheck, that can be a lot of money each month that you could put away for something additionally rather than spending on the off chance I have a healthcare emergency. So look at those expenses up front. Another thing to consider would be, do I have a dependent that has chronic conditions, and how best to use the benefit in that case? If your employer offers a high deductible health plan, another consideration to look at is, does the company offer any funds directly into your health savings account to offset the cost, or does the employer offer any matching funds? Because this can make a difference in your decision as well. If you don't use it now, you may have those funds available to you at any time in the future. The advantage to those HSA funds is that they are tax-free if you use them now or in the future for any health-related expenses. Another consideration may be the network available within the plans. Are your doctors in that network? Is the healthcare system you use in that network? How wide is that network? Things like that, will you have to change doctors, make a difference too in looking at your health plans. You also want to look at the overall benefits covered. What are the pharmacy coverages? If you're a high prescription drug user, you might need to look at the pharmacy benefits and what's covered, what are the co-pays there, in addition to medical benefits. A last consideration would be telehealth. Does the health plan you're looking at offer telehealth visits? Because that can be a major convenience and a cost saver if you have a number of minor injuries, illnesses, like a strep throat, ear infection, poison ivy type thing. Telehealth can be a huge cost savings and a convenience if that is covered as part of your health plan.
So basically what you were saying is we need to set a budget, kind of build a budget for deciding on our health plan is what I heard from that, because you gave a lot of great things there about all the different costs and things and even like a pros and cons. And I think a lot of people don't think about all of those potential things. Like you talked about, what's covered, having prescription drugs, if you have a chronic disease, all of those things. And what looks like an easy decision, like, oh, I'm going to have to pay less for health insurance because you take the high deductible plan, may be more costly because you're going to be using it a lot. So we like to talk about on this podcast a lot about budgets, and I'm glad that you really said that without saying it, that you really need to put together a healthcare budget to make a decision. So I'm going to move on to a different topic. If you have young kids, say those that aren't in school, can you explain why you would want, let's say you're in a high deductible plan, which I don't know if you would choose that or not, but you have access to an HSA, but why might you still need a flexible spending account if you have young kids that say are in daycare?
There are a couple reasons that a flexible spending account can be helpful to you, especially if you have young children in childcare. The biggest benefit to the flexible spending account is the tax advantage, because you can put money aside before your taxes are assessed. So big savings right there just in the tax advantage of that. For small children with childcare expenses, the IRS sets a limit annually on how much you can put aside in your tax-free flexible spending account, and you can use those dollars for your childcare expenses. Just a great way to put aside some money on a tax-free basis. On the medical side, for a medical flexible spending account, it can be helpful if you have children with orthodontia needs. Even with a health savings account, you may use a medical flex account for things like vision care and dental expenses. So orthodontia can be a big one. Glasses or contacts can be a big one. The drawback to both dependent care and flexible spending accounts for medical is that you do have to use that money during the calendar year or you lose it. So you do need to plan carefully to use those funds during the year. There is one additional advantage on the medical flexible spending account side, and that is once you elect an amount for the year to come out of your paycheck, you have that money available to you immediately in January. So if you need to pay for orthodontia or LASIK surgery, contact lenses, that type of thing, you have those funds available, and then you catch up during the year with your paychecks.
Yeah, I think that's something that people don't think a lot about. If you know you're going to have a big medical expense coming up and you don't have the money in your HSA, doing a flexible spending allows you to pay for that over time without having to take some type of other loan to pay for it, which you'd still be kind of making payments on. So that's a very interesting concept that I hadn't thought of. Now, I do have one question, what you said there. Has the IRS caught up with how costly childcare is, or is that limit actually lower than what it actually costs?
Oh, the limit is much lower than what it actually costs to put a child in daycare.
So what Ann is saying there is that you can use this, but you're going to also have to make sure you put in your budget a little bit more than that if you're going to pay for childcare. So now, this is one that I think this is just based on your years of experience. What's the most underutilized benefit that's offered, but really employees should use it more, in your opinion?
I would say your Employee Assistance Program, your EAP. They've been around for years. Most companies offer them, and most employees think of it as, oh, that's counseling services. That offers free counseling services on a short-term basis if I need it. Well, EAPs have evolved dramatically in the last decade, and there are so many services available that people just don't take advantage of. They're a resource for help on parenting, for caring for aging parents. Have a new puppy you need to crate train? They have podcasts and resources that you can download. Most of them offer some basic budgeting tools. Many offer legal resources and discounts on legal services. There are also a lot of health-related resources available through the EAP. There's health coaching, nutrition and dietetics coaching. There's discounts such as theme park or favorite retailer discounts where you can buy gift cards at a discount. So there's a lot of different financial, wellness, and just general resources available through the EAP. Most have an app available now that you can download that can be very beneficial that people just don't utilize.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think EAP has sort of a stigma about it, that people are afraid that if they use it, and they also don't know. I just recently got a puppy and had no idea there was crate training. I wish I would have known that. See, I even should take more advantage of those benefits. I think that's a good one because your whole well-being is very important to your financial well-being, and all the things in the EAP are just great ways to help people doing that. And I knew there was budgeting, and I've looked at that, and I think there was some really good resources there for you to do that. Here's a question, and I think I've already sort of answered this, but why should employees review all their benefits every year? Because it's pretty easy just to say, well, this is what I had last year, so I'm just going to do the same thing.
I agree. There are many companies that will just say it's passive enrollment. So if you don't want to make a change, you don't have to go in and do anything. I have always taken the stance that it is active enrollment, so that you must go in and re-enroll every year and look at your benefits. Truly, your needs change each year. Maybe you were married and acquired dependents or had a new baby this last year, or maybe you reduced your benefits because your oldest child is no longer needing benefits, or you experience a loss of a spouse or a divorce through the year. So your needs have changed every year, so it's important to look at that from your perspective. But also, companies are trying to offer a larger variety of benefits to help with life. Mental health benefits have increased, different options for that. There are a lot of little additions within your health plan that you may or may not be aware of. Maternity care offerings, specialized case management for chronic conditions. That telehealth that I mentioned before can be very helpful. Maybe you have a new pet and now you need pet insurance. Looking at those different options just to reevaluate how your needs have changed and what new offerings the company is having available to you is really important to look at on an annual basis.
Yeah, I agree. And I appreciate that you've always made us be active, because it is one of the things that I do every year is like looking at the choice, looking at what we think we're going to spend, what the company is putting into the HSA, what are all, and making all of those decisions. And I think you make a great point is that you've made a couple of times. Every year your health needs change, and every year the company is doing other things. So I like that term, active participation in your benefit selections, which is really important instead of passive. I really like that term. So another question for you, and I think this is, do you have examples of benefits that people have used that's been really impactful, but maybe they didn't really consider it a company benefit?
Absolutely. There's a couple out there. Companies definitely are attuned to what's going on in individuals' lives. So there are some different benefits that are available now that you may not think about. There's wellness or fitness center reimbursements available that people should take advantage of. There's access to apps like Calm that a number of companies may offer at a discount or free. Or there may be some caregiver resource apps that you didn't need before because you didn't have a need as a caregiver, and maybe now you do. So just reevaluating that. But the number one benefit that people probably don't consider until they need it is disability income. It's very difficult to have an unexpected illness or injury and, have a need for expenditures for health-related matters and not have income coming in. Most companies will offer a long-term disability just as a general benefit to the employees that the company sponsors and pays for. But you have to get to a 90-day mark before that benefit will provide any income replacement. So if there is a short-term disability buy-up or your company offers it, you definitely want to take advantage and sign up for that, because most people won't get to that 90 days. They'll have a short-term illness or injury. There's so many active people out doing fitness runs and marathons that greater risk of injury.
And pickleball.
Oh, pickleball too. Lots of musculoskeletal injuries in pickleball, but you don't know. And so taking advantage of that short-term disability benefit, you don't think about it until you need it. So that is probably the most, what I would say, not considered a benefit, but so valuable when you need it.
And that's a perfect example of how using benefits to protect your financial well-being, because a short-term disability, even for 60 days, can throw someone's financial situation off. So I think that's a great example that people just don't think about. One, they just don't think it's ever going to happen to them, or they don't realize how long that they could be. So we've talked a lot about benefits and everything. Is there anything else that you'd want to share with our listeners that's important about your employee benefits, or you think that's important for them to understand when they're doing it, or maybe that they take for granted? And, even as people are looking at switching jobs at other companies, what are things that they should make sure they look at that they shouldn't just take for granted that everyone's going to offer?
The short-term disability is one for certain. Looking at all the benefits, looking at your retirement savings plan, especially if you are in your 20s, save as much as you can, as early as you can for later benefit. And take care of your health, even if you're changing jobs. Don't overlook that annual wellness appointment. Many companies will give you an incentive to do it. It's mandated to be 100% covered for an annual preventative visit, and that's the opportunity to, prevent things in the future happening for your health. So don't ignore your health as you're looking at different things on the financial side.
I think that's great advice. I mean, one of the things that we offer here that it seems minor, but I love, is the flu shots that we bring to, at the corporate office, because it's so nice to walk in, roll up your sleeve, get your shot, and move on. I'm just a proponent of flu shots, because I like that, and I like it that we do that and bring it here on staff for our employees and their spouses. So I think that's great. So hopefully you've heard a lot today about benefits and how they can help your financial well-being. And thank you so much for being here, because you've shared a lot of great things that I hope that as all of our listeners, reflect on their benefit time, because this is going to drop about the time that they're going to be making those benefit selections. And if their company's in the passive mode, that they take this, my new favorite phrase, they take an active role in doing their benefits, because your physical well-being, as we've said a couple of times now, really impacts your financial well-being. This has been another episode of the Smarter Money Life podcast, powered by Forum Credit Union. Please leave your thoughts in the comments, and be sure to look for our next episode wherever you get your podcast. Remember, now is a great time to make a difference in your financial life. Until next time.